What have you been hesitant to speak to me about and why? God, this sounds like blind date. And you don't have to answer that.
No, I will, because the opportunity has presented itself. So, I think the last time
Hi.
Hello.
If for some reason I lost all my memory, what's the first thing you tell me about us?
I would remind you where we first met. And that will probably be on the ward. That's the first time I came across you, or you came across me, whichever. I felt really off, went to my GP who fobbed me off, so I thought I'll go and do a walk-in, and I didn't come out for 6 weeks. It was the worst experience of my life because I'd never been that sick. Pretty much my whole life, so.
I so remember that, Rebecca. I was a young consultant at the time, you were one of our first complex patients on the ward.
Really?
Yes.
And I remember being photographed for some journals as well, because my skin had scaled and it was awful.
Absolutely. And I remember this is a challenge.
Yeah.
Sanjay, you've got to prove yourself as a consultant. and we took you. And then in the end, I think you got better and we got slightly bored of you. So
and then
discharged you.
Yeah. What do you remember most from the first time we met and why?
First time I met you was up on the ward, as you say, and you were not very well. I was a new consultant. For me at the time, this was a clinical conundrum rather than, hey, listen, this is a person that's been really unwell for a long time. I'm just taking me back to an old story. I remember a time when I was a very junior doctor at a hospital in the Midlands. And I won't name the hospital or the consultant, but I remember going on the ward round, and this was like an old, almost a Carry-On movie ward round where, matron in charge and the consultant wearing his suit and bow tie would turn up with an entourage of junior doctors and medical students.
Right.
And there was somebody been diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. And all he did was went into the behind the curtains, pulled out the Lord's Prayer from his inner jacket, gave it to her and said, "This is the only thing that's going to help you," and then walked out. I know. And I have to say, for me, this was like, never, ever, ever am I going to do this. But Rebecca, for me, this was an important lesson. It was a lesson about treating the person and not looking at clinical conundrums. And that is a lesson that I probably have taken through the years. And now for me, it is all about the person that's in front of me. Okay. What have you been hesitant to speak to me about and why? God, this sounds like blind date. And you don't have to answer that.
No, I will, because the opportunity has presented itself. So, I think the last time we discussed taking, you prescribed me some...
A statin.
And I'm going to make a confession that they're still sitting in my drawer because I'm thinking I'd rather make lifestyle changes. So that's the issue. Okay. I mean, and I get it. I speak to everybody because you have to take it. I said, yeah. Sanjay explained the evidence is, extremely convincing. But that's another pill for me, and I don't want to take pill right now. I'm terrible.
did you feel that you couldn't say that up front and say,
No,
was it, and I don't want to disappoint Sanjay because,
Not so much that. That's more of a personal thing. I just thought, I don't like tablets. So it's just primarily me and my, I don't know, call it a phobia of taking pills. And I think that was one of the scariest things for me through my journey of HIV, was having watched my partner, whose life was literally around taking medication, some in the morning, some with food, some without food. And because he had other health conditions that he was dealing with, he took so many tablets. And I often ask myself, the day I get to start taking my medication, I pray it won't be like this. Unfortunately, when I started, the regimens were much better, side effects were much better. So I came and started at a time when I didn't really need to think too much about it. So that was easy for me. And I think the switch that you need to take this, it is part of your life now. Even that, I took the medication. First of all, it took me a year to negotiate, so we need to start thinking about you taking it, okay? A whole year went by, and then we thought, right, I'm ready. Psychologically, I'm ready. I will take them. But even when I did bring them home, I think they sat on the table for 2 weeks. And then I started. And then once I'd started, that was it. I didn't need to think about, psychologically I was ready, and I took them without a problem. What do you feel has been the hardest part about HIV treatment for me, and why?
So I remember having that discussion around a single tablet regimen a couple of years ago, I think.
Yeah.
Now and saying, okay, Rebecca, what do you think? 1 tablet a day. And I remember talking through the issues, and you asked all the pertinent questions. You're like, am I going to put on weight?
It's still a question. It's still a question.
Am I going to put on weight? I'm going to have sleepless nights. I was like, okay, let's try and see. But you were willing to try it.
But that's part of the trust issue, is that it's a two-way conversation. If you make a suggestion, and then you think, actually, I've never thought about that. Let me go away and think about it, and then you have the conversation. You try. One of the things I found that was really difficult in the beginning when I first started, which was I started with taking a combination twice a day. Now with young children, that was just almost impossible. So it's nice to hear that you think I'm adherent pretty much the time.
Absolutely.
But in the beginning, it was really difficult because my morning regime, I'd be in the middle of trying to get ready for work, trying to send the kids off to school, and sometimes I'd take it before I leave. Sometimes, and I used to work for a legal practice at the time, sometimes you get into the office, dump your bag, and it's all go until whatever, and you think, I haven't taken my medication. Midday, so it was really up and down. And again, that was part of the thing. I came back and I said, this isn't working for me. Again, the listening was a really key part. And they said, okay. So because of lifestyle, we're going to have to think about something. And it was changed to the very old one that I was on for years and years and years, that then said, well, now, things have moved on. We can give you one. Yeah, and the rest is history. So, yeah, I'm quite pleased, actually.
I know, I mean, me too, but that's, that's the advantage of that relationship, isn't it? So I kind of know, what you want, what your lifestyle is, what are the important issues for you. You kind of trust me, and you kind of think, okay, let's have this conversation and let's try and work through what is best. Yeah.
You've just said something that's made me think, actually. Very often you come in and you think, I'm not going to say I've got a new job that requires me to be there for however long, or my job is a desk job. We don't think those things are important, but then in a sense it is, because that helps you determine, okay, she's got 2 young kids, she won't be able to do that in the morning. Can we talk about, it allows you to ask, are you able to take it in the morning because you seem quite busy? And I think that's something we need to think of as patients, because a lot of the time we think, I'm just here for the clinical stuff. But sometimes if you explain, I'm living in a occupation place, and I would prefer something that's a bit more discreet. It helps you think, and we can plan them together. So I think that would be the takeaway message about the kinds of conversations that you have. It's really important to be as open and honest, as candid with the person who's trying his best to make your life and your care so that you can get the best quality of care, as they say. If you don't say anything, they'll never know. So it's a very much a two-way conversation. I think we've got to learn a lot of that. We've got to just be open and honest. Right, if I met you years ago before you started working in HIV and compared you to who you are now, what is the biggest difference I would notice? So pre-HIV consultant and post.
Yeah. I think it would be very obvious. I was an arrogant young man.
Which young man isn't, though?
I pre coming into HIV medicine.
Yeah.
I wanted to be, superstar and conquer the world and all of that. And coming to HIV medicine, and that kind of opened my eyes into kind of looking at people as people rather than disease.
Okay.
And that, I think, really changed me.
So HIV does that, though, doesn't it?
Absolutely. And
it just changes the way you think and everything else.
Exactly. And I say to all my infectious diseases trainees, you have to do at least a year of HIV medicine. Because it will change the way you think.
Oh, good. So again, that's that silver lining, isn't it?
Exactly.
In the middle of all of this tragedy it transforms people in how they think. We have these preconceived ideas and notions about gay people, about, the Black African society. When you get into the HIV sector, you think, no, hang on a second, well, they're very similar in that respect. We're just people. Being in this sector has it's
correct.
Made me more understanding, more, of all of these things that we think we know about, but until they actually come to your doorstep, you think, I have no clue. So I've allowed myself to be slightly more open-minded.
Same here. Exactly that. If this were to be our last conversation, what is one thing you'd never want me to forget?
God. I would like you, if this were our last conversation, I would like you to go away and think that your input in my life has been enormous. And without you, I'd have probably been on another journey, if that makes sense. Because I think my whole HIV journey has been influenced by all of the people in it, the conversations that they've allowed us to have, the interactions. So that relationship is one that if I had to write a biography, you'd certainly be in it. So yeah, you'd go away thinking you've made a change in my life.